Good morning. It's just after 5 a.m. here in Calgary, and this particular practice, I want to focus in on a concept that I speak a lot about, which is that strength is easy when it comes from a foundation of ease. So that ease and strength, ease and power are not separate concepts necessarily, but that ease is the foundation that underlines strength and power. And when you can really build out ease, then your strength and power will come quite remarkably well. So this could be a surprising type of practice for you. We're going to be focusing initially on ease, starting to add in some strength, noticing where you want to add in inappropriate tension, and then just discover what happens all at the end. All right, so you're going to need a chair. I've turned my chair to face this way so my legs can easily slide on top of it. I also have a block, but you can use a roller for the next piece of it or a firm bolster. So whichever prop that you have will work. So let's come onto our backs. And you'll see how my legs are being supported by the chair. And some people call this constructive rest. Some people call it legs over chair. The idea here is that you have your legs are being supported by the chair, and the legs are like wooden telephone poles, and your pelvis is like some mud, and the wooden telephone poles are sinking into the mud. And so allow this awareness of your legs just really, really relaxing. This is so effective if you are a runner or a cyclist or someone like you're preparing for ski season and you use your legs a lot. This can be such an incredible position just to let your legs settle in. I remember my first discovery when I was working at a trade show on a cement floor, and at the end of the day, I put my legs over a chair and all of that strain went away. So you can let your legs just settle on the chair, and then if you can be aware, feeling your pelvis as mud, and these telephone poles are sinking into the mud. Okay? So let's first develop that. And while you're there, let's just become aware of what's in the front of your hips and what your hip flexors feel like. Notice what your pelvis feels like. Gently massage through your abdomen. And you can put skin on skin, like fingers directly on the skin, or you can do what I'm doing, which is I have my fingers on top of my pants and shirt, and I'm just feeling my abdomen. This was a practice I did, like this massage practice. I did this a lot in my months postpartum after having my twins, so I could stay really closely aware of my abdomen and how my diastasis was healing and how my C-section scar was healing and how my overall tone of my abdomen was. So it's a great practice just to notice what's going on here in your abdomen, because what happens in your abdomen has such an impact on your pelvis and your SI, your piriformis, bursitis, your hips, your knees, your ribs, your diaphragm. I mean, I could go on and on and on, yeah? Okay, so now we're here. What I'd like you to do next is to just feel where your leg bone is in your hip socket and slide your right leg toward you and then away. Now notice, did you use the back of your head or your neck or your jaw to do that? Did you lift your shoulder? Did you push down with your sacrum to do that? Because the only thing that's actually doing that is your hip flexor. Yeah? Okay, and then the other side. Notice if your pelvis wants to spin. Notice if you want to back bend, move your back into extension. Good. Okay, now let's move that leg again. One leg, say your right leg, into hip flexion. Bring your right hand to the front of that thigh. Now you're going to use your hand as a wall, and this leg is going to press, the right leg is going to press into your hand, and your hand's going to resist the leg. Try not to use your armpit and your ribs. Try not to side bend. Allow this to be an isometric push into the hand. So it's your hip flexors that are engaging. Good. And then let that go. Okay. And then other side. And really dial this back. Like this is the movement, right? So we know what the movement is. Can you do this movement, complete it, and use 15% less effort? Okay, let's do it again. So 15% less effort and still have the same result. So that might mean if you're utilizing your face to do this, that you're relaxing through your face. That if you are overutilizing your shoulders or your neck, then you just stop doing that. So you're only going as far initially as you don't use that tension, and just allow that relaxation to guide you. Yeah? Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to lift the foot off the chair a little bit. Okay, good. And then bring that down. Okay, so we're just lifting from the knee. So we're extending from the knee and then bring it down. Okay, so now we're going to extend the knee a little bit and then also move the leg and hip flexion. So we've done a little bit of movement at the knee, a little bit of movement at the hip. Notice if your pelvis wobbled. Okay? So we don't need it to wobble. We don't need your rib cage to brace. And we don't need your jaw to get tight. Yeah? So just allow it to be super easy. And then move that leg bone in the hip socket. And maybe extend the knee just a little bit. Good, and then bring it down. All right, other side. So other side comes over. Check in with your breathing. Okay, and let's do that one more time. Now the other side hip, it doesn't need to get all fired up either. And then bring it down. So just now take inventory. What the heck just happened there, right? Like, did you overutilize the opposite hip to lift the one you wanted to lift? Did you use your face? Did you use your, like, just notice what the heck you just did, yeah? So come back to this constructive rest. Come back to your legs sinking into your pelvis here, and just notice what you notice. Okay, and then bring this leg back into hip flexion. Watch if you want to be pressing down with the opposite leg to do that. Place your hand on the front thigh and press that in. So this is a bit more load. Engaging through that hip flexor. Try not to push with your opposite leg. It's only about the side that you're actually, so this is my right side. It's only about the right side. It's not about pushing down with the left. That's extraneous tension that you don't actually need. And it might feel weird and hard to not actually do that, but here's the thing that happens. You're retraining, we're going to the other side now. You're retraining movement patterns so that you use the appropriate amount of effort that you need and not any extraneous tension. So then you can imagine where all that extraneous effort that you were previously using, where that goes, right? And what ends up happening is you start to see where so much of your energy goes and where a lot of your fatigue arises from, which is so awesome because then you get to see that as you improve your movement, you get to improve your energy, you get to improve your ability, your vitality. Okay, one more time. And I'm going to get too overexcited about it. But it's true, like this is how the whole recovery process actually gives you energy and vitality and creativity, great, and better alignment. So we're going on the second side for the last time. Good, and then bring that down. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to bring this leg toward us. So now we're focusing more on hip flexion, but only take it to 90 degrees. Don't take it all the way in, okay? Now we're going to start to extend the knee a little bit, just a little bit. Just hold that. Now bring it back down for a sec. Okay, now feel your pelvis again. Feel the weight of the pelvis on the floor. Feel how your legs sink into the hip sockets like the wooden telephone poles. As the leg comes towards you now to 90 degrees, let the weight of that telephone pole keep sinking into the pelvis. As you straighten the knee just a little bit, let the weight of that leg sink into the pelvis. This other side is just easy. That leg bone is also sinking into the pelvis, but you're not adding extraneous tension to the lower leg of the opposite leg on the chair. There's not extraneous tension, yeah? So now you're going to straighten this knee a little more. The leg still sinks into the pelvis, that's the mud. And then maybe you straighten a little bit more. The leg sinks into the pelvis, that's like mud. Good, all right, let that go. And now just notice what you just did to yourself. And then the other side brings it towards you to about 9 degrees. Let that leg bone be like a wooden telephone pole, sinking into your pelvis. So your breathing is easy as you straighten the knee just a little bit, letting that leg bone sink into your pelvis. Maybe you straighten the knee a little bit more, letting that leg bone sink into the pelvis. Watch any gripping that starts to arise elsewhere. Allow that ease to be at the undercurrent of this gaining of strength through your leg, between the pelvis and the ribs. Good, and then bring that down. Okay, one more of these. So now you're going to bring the leg towards your belly a little bit. We're now back onto the first side, so my right side. And then we're going to straighten that knee a little bit. Let the weight of that telephone pole settle into your pelvis. Now rotate the leg bone out. So we're rotating the leg bone into external rotation. Now what we're going to do is slowly lower it towards the chair and then bring it back up. So the pelvis is staying still. And you're only moving as far as the leg bone. You can still feel the leg bone like a wooden telephone pole settling into the pelvis, that's mud. So you could probably go full distance, right? But if you did, you might extend through your back, you might grip through your ribs, you might grip through your jaw. Find the range of motion where you can actually do it, where the telephone pole is sinking into the mud. Soft eyes. Pay attention to the extraneous tension that comes into your system to do the movement, and back the movement off so that you still have this undercurrent of ease while you're gaining the strength. Okay, good? Because this is a more loaded movement, yeah? All right, other side. Bring the leg in, 90 degrees, straighten through the knee a little bit. You don't need to go through the whole, I'm not fully extending, I'm just partly extending. So you don't need to go to your entire range. And then rotate that leg bone and then start to lower it and then raise it. Notice what wants to kick in. Now only going through the range of motion where you feel the thigh bone, the telephone pole, that thigh bone, settling into the mud. Really, really, really easy here. And it's also strengthening. But it's the undercurrent of ease that I'm really interested in teaching today, so that you can be aware of what contributes to the ease and then what pulls you out, and then come back to the ease and continue to train that pattern. Because as you train that pattern, that is what you're going to get more of. Okay, bring that leg down onto the chair. Okay, and then let the legs come off. And you can just let your legs rest out in front of you. Notice what you feel in your legs and your pelvis. And then when you're ready, you can move the chair away. And now you can grab your bolster or your block or your roller. And you choose, if you've got the block, you choose the height. I wouldn't go for the high height, but you might do medium or low. And now you're here. So you're in this little bit of a back bend with the bolster or the roller or the block underneath your pelvis, and just let your pelvis, let your sacrum settle into the prop that you're on. Feel your legs again. And then raise one leg up towards you. Looks familiar, doesn't it? Let the legs settle into your pelvis. Let your pelvis be heavy like mud on the block or the prop. Straighten the knee just a little bit. Rotate that leg bone. Now you can start to play the range of motion again. Watch what happens with the opposite leg. Notice where you want to find balance elsewhere in your body, and then find only the range of motion where you're totally at ease. Feel the response of your body. Same movement as you were doing on the chair. Notice if you want your leg to go over to the side. Feel what happens between your pelvis and your ribs. Watch that the leg bone is still in external rotation. Good. Unrotate it and then come down. Good. Other side. Lift it up. Straighten through that knee a little bit. Rotate that leg bone. Now find that movement of extension and flexion through that hip with an externally rotated leg. Pelvis stays steady on the block. Notice what goes on in your ribs and your shoulder and your neck and your face. Watch if this leg wants to slide out. So find the range. Find the range where it's just that leg bone doing the movement. Pelvis is steady. Body is more at ease. You don't need to go into a big range to train this. Good. And then unrotate, let the leg come down. Now notice what you feel. Start to reach one foot out. Keep the foot on the floor. We'll move it in a sec, but just keep the foot on the floor. Good. And then bring it back up, and then other side. Now, as you move the leg out, pay attention to what's going on in your pelvis. And then come back up. Okay, now we can take that leg out. Pay attention to the pelvis. Think about it again as mud. And your telephone pole is moving away, but you're still connected between mud and pole. And maybe you even take the leg straight. But you decide here about what you do there. Because as you take it away, the foot stays on the floor. Then as the foot begins to dorsiflex, then your knee might be able to straighten and your hip might be able to extend. Pay attention to the connection between your foot, your knee, and your hip. And then bring that leg up. All right, good. And then the other side. And the whole time, I mean, what becomes super fun, if you're a nerd like me when it comes to this stuff, is that you just notice where else you're holding tension and then allow yourself to just go in the range where that doesn't happen. That's the movement pattern that you're training. And it's why people can gain strength so quickly. Okay, and if it makes sense, start to dorsiflex the ankle, which will then enable you to go a bit more through the hip and the knee. But notice what goes on with your pelvis, your ribs, your jaw, your face, your eyes. And then just move in the range that actually works for you. People gain strength so easily when they pay attention. And they work in the actual range that they actually have. Okay, great. Let's lift the hips up and then coming down. So many people push beyond the range and then they create coordination patterns that just don't really work between the brain and the muscle tissue. All right, let's bring one leg to your belly. Take the hands around the thigh and let's bring the legs straight up. Now you find the range that makes sense for you. We're going to do a little souped up parang. And then rotate the leg bone, bring the ankle onto the knee. Let's just rotate that leg bone in the hip socket. Feel what's going on through the opposite hip. Good, and then up you come with the leg, bring it down, other side. So leg comes in, hands behind the thigh, leg comes up to the sky. And then rotate, and then bring the leg down. And then when you're ready, rotate if you want. Just pay attention to what's going on through your body. Good, and then leg comes on up, good, and then bring it down. Okay, straighten the legs out in front of you. Now notice what you experience through your body. And then when you're ready, roll on over and then come on up. And depending on where you are in your day when you're watching this, then experience what you experience through this. Share your experiences below if you'd like, and then take the awareness that you gained into the rest of your day and see what happens. Yeah? You have a great day. We will see you tomorrow morning.